Okay, I've got to tell you this most amazing story, and this is the story that led to my first children's book, The Real Life Adventures of Catherine Cat Calloway I, and it's moved me. This story has moved me so many times over the years. Every time I think about it, as a matter of fact, it moves me greatly, and it'll give you an idea of where the book came from and how it came about, and how we are inspired as writers by the real events from the outside world. I had never really thought about writing a kid's book, and over the years, several friends of mine that knew me well and they know how much I love children kept saying, "Why don't you write a kid's book? Why don't you write a kid's book?" And I said, "I'll think about it. I'll think about it." And I was invited to do the commencement address for a graduating high school class in St. Petersburg, Florida, a number of years ago. And I went up there and I was, very excited to meet all the kids. I think there was like around 500 kids that were graduating from their senior class in high school, going on to college or jobs or wherever they were going. And there was a breakfast keynote. So I went into this big dining hall, a hotel room as a matter of fact, and there was kids all around. There was about 50 tables throughout this auditorium, this dining room area, and there was 10 kids at each table. So I had about 40 minutes before I was going to go on stage and speak, so I decided to go table to table, and I'd sit down and just say, "So what are you going to do after school? You're graduating from high school. Where are you going next? Where are you going next? What are you going to do?" And, the kids were always as loud as you can imagine. I mean, it was close to a food fight. They were so excited this was their last day, and they were going to graduate, and everyone was really fired up. And I went around, and kids were telling me all these different things they were doing, and they were all very, very excited. As I went from table to table, I noticed off in the far right-hand corner, one table with 10 chairs, 9 of them empty. There was one boy sitting there with his head down, and I could see he was eating his breakfast. So I thought how peculiar that was, and as I moved around the audience, I finally got close to him, and I said, I've got to go over there before I go on stage. So I went over and stood next to him, and I said, "Hey, I was wondering if I could sit here. Since this chair is open, I was wondering if I could sit down and talk to you for a minute." There was no answer. And so I said, "Well, I won't take a lot of your time. I got to go up on stage pretty soon anyway, but I'd really, really love to talk to you and to see what you're going to do after you graduate, etc." And there was no answer. So I decided, I said, "You know what?" I'm going to pull out this chair and sit down next to you anyway, if that's okay with you. And if it isn't okay, just let me know. Still no answer. So I sat down and I started talking, and I said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk for both of us." I started laughing. I go, "I know you're busy eating, but I'm just going to talk for both of us. And if you want to answer any time now, you can." Now, throughout this whole little dissertation that I'm going through, he never once lifted his head up. It was down, his hair was in his face, and he was just slowly eating. So finally I said, "I would love to know what your dreams are. I would love to know what you're doing after high school. If you'd be so gracious to tell me, what do you dream to become?" And with that, his head slowly lifted up, and he looked directly into my eyes. And I can remember this like it was today. His face was literally dripping with oil, and acne scars, and acne was all over. Deep scars from past acne, current acne that was just so inflamed and red, and just his face was just filled with oil. It was unbelievable. He had glasses on that were the traditional very thick glasses, taped in the center, taped on the sides. It looked like he had had the glasses forever. And then in his mouth, he couldn't even close his lips because his mouth had this huge dental contraption. It looked like braces times 4. It was just massive. And so I'm staring directly into his eyes, and he's looking directly into mine. And he says, "No one has ever asked me that question in my entire life." And I said, "Really?" He said, "No one's ever asked me what my dreams are." I said, I would love to know. And he put down his fork and his spoon, and he looks at me, and he started becoming so animated. He said, "Well, for the last 4 years in high school, I've been volunteering my time at this ambulance corps, and I'm going to go on and I'm going to become an emergency medical technician, an EMT, and I want to go on from there. I want to help save people's lives. Over the last 4 years, I've seen them bring in people missing legs and arms from auto accidents and babies almost dying and old people on their deathbed going out. And he said, every time I see this happen, it makes me more committed to saving lives. And he went on and on and on. I saw so much passion from this young boy, so much energy, so much passion. And as he's telling me this, because of his physical appearance, he had been an outcast. He had become an outcast. Possibly because of his personality too. He had become an outcast. And I was sitting, as he's telling me the story, I was sitting thinking, gosh, if only these kids knew the passion and energy in this young boy's heart. If they only knew it. Well, he's talking so much, and I'm just listening. He's telling me one story after another. All of a sudden, I hear this, and for the fourth time, will our keynote speaker, Mr. Essel, please come to the stage? I was so enraptured with this kid speaking that I totally forgot what I was there for. And also, I said, hey, man, I'm sorry, I got to go. I want to talk to you afterwards there. And I went up and did my keynote. Well, at the end of my keynote, I went into the hallway, and we were giving away each of the kids in the graduating class. All of them were receiving a copy of my first book, Phoenix Soul, One Man's Search for Love and Inner Peace. And so I was excited, thinking, okay, he's got to come up. He's got to come up soon. I never saw him again. Never, ever saw him again. And I'm driving home, and I shouldn't have done this, but as I'm driving home, I'm writing notes about what happened that day. And I get home, and I put them in a file. And over the next month, I'm pulling out these ideas and thoughts. And I said, this would be a great kids book. My friends were right. It's time to write the kids book. And I did. And I wrote the book, The Real Life Adventures of Catherine Cat Calloway the First. And I changed it a little bit. I had two girls being the quote-unquote stars. You know, Catherine Cat Calloway is the most popular girl in school. And Ling Ling Lu is this little girl that doesn't look like anyone else, doesn't talk to anyone, doesn't act like anyone else. And she's the outcast in the school, and no one will sit with her at lunch. So I used the same theory, you know, but at the end of the book, just like in my experience with this young man in the hotel, at the end of the book, at least I found out he was unbelievably passionate and gifted. In the book, the whole school finds out that Ling Ling Lu, this little girl that was an outcast, that was all by herself, had this amazing gift and talent that everyone benefited from. So I don't know if this young man will ever see this YouTube video. I don't even know his name, quite honestly. But I hope he knows and will find out that he inspired me deeply on that day and every day forward when I retell this story and in writing the book. If I can help you at all, talkdavid.com is my website. We've got videos and blogs and all kinds of things about personal growth, helping you to remember that you're an absolute gift of the divine with special talents and passions. And I really desire that everyone finds them and uses them 365 days a year and become inspired like this young man inspired me. My love to all. Bye-bye.